My name is Emily. I used to think that loneliness was something you only felt in a quiet room or in the absence of company. I was wrong. You can feel completely alone even when you're married, even when someone sleeps beside you every night, or at least used to. Jake, my husband, works in corporate logistics. He's always on a plane, always one time zone ahead or behind, depending on the week. First, I understood. We were building a future. But lately, it just feels like I'm the only one still here, still trying. Our home is beautiful, the kind that people compliment with fake smiles and say, "Wow, you're so lucky." But the silence inside it echoes more than any words ever could. I spend my mornings cleaning rooms that never get messy, cooking meals for one, and watching the clock like it owes me something. Never does. Jake calls when he remembers. Quick check-ins. A few "how are yous," and a "sorry I've got to run." I smile through it. Always do. It's easier than explaining what I really feel, like a woman suspended in time, waiting to matter again. Then there was Noah. He wasn't supposed to mean anything. He was just the delivery guy. He started bringing packages a few months ago. At first it was quick. A knock, a signature, and he'd be gone. But over time something changed. He started to linger. Just a moment longer than necessary. Asking how my day was. Complimenting the flowers in the vase or the smell of my baking. First I thought nothing of it. He was being polite, that's all. But there was something in the way he looked at me, like he actually saw me. Not the version of me that's been blurred out by routine and responsibility, but the real me. The woman I forgot existed. I'd catch myself doing little things before his deliveries. Putting on lip gloss. Changing into something a little more flattering. Telling myself it was nothing. That I just wanted to feel pretty. But deep down I knew why. One afternoon I opened the door and he handed me the parcel. Our fingers brushed. Just barely. But the warmth of that contact stayed with me all day. Felt wrong and yet not entirely. The days started to blend. Jake called less. Work trips extended. He missed my birthday. Sent flowers with a note typed by his assistant. I placed them in the trash after 3 days. Not out of anger. Just resignation. Then came that Thursday. The sky was swollen with gray clouds, and rain hit the windows like whispers begging to be heard. I was curled up on the couch with a book I wasn't really reading when my phone buzzed. Message from Jake. Flight cancelled. Stuck another week. Sorry. We'll make it up to you. I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. Moments later the doorbell rang. It was Noah. He stood there, damp from the drizzle, holding a medium-sized box with my name on it. He looked tired but smiled anyway. "Even the rain can't stop you from shopping," he joked lightly. I laughed. "You know me too well." He hesitated. "You mind if I step in for just a second? It's coming down out here." My heart stuttered. It was innocent. Just a few minutes. I stepped aside. "Of course." He walked in, shook off his jacket, and stood quietly in the hallway. I offered him a towel. He took it, thanking me under his breath. I made tea, more out of habit than intention, and we sat, one on each end of the kitchen island. The silence wasn't awkward. It was full. Like neither of us needed to pretend. We spoke about simple things. How long he'd been working the route. The best and worst deliveries. His childhood dog. Nothing profound, but more honest than any conversation I'd had with Jake in months. At one point he looked at me, really looked, and said, "You always seem like you're waiting for someone to remember you." Froze. He apologized instantly, said he didn't mean anything by it. But he had. And he was right. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Because in that moment, for the first time in a long while, someone did remember me. And I let the warmth of it linger, not knowing just how far that one moment would carry us both. I should have asked him to leave. That would have been the right thing to do. But Noah stayed. The tea between us grew cold, but neither of us moved. The rain outside was louder now, drumming against the windows, as if trying to pull me back to reality. But I didn't want to go back. He leaned forward, elbows resting on the counter. His eyes scanned my face, and there was something in them. Not lust, not even desire, something deeper. Like he was fighting himself. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "That came out wrong earlier." I shook my head. "No. You were honest. People don't do that much anymore." He smiled. But it faded quickly. "I'm not sure I should say this," he continued, voice low. "But sometimes I wonder what would happen if I just said what I really wanted." I swallowed hard. "What do you mean?" He paused, then stood up. He didn't move toward me, didn't reach out, didn't do anything inappropriate. But his presence filled the space. The kitchen didn't feel like a kitchen anymore. Felt like a secret. He looked out the window before speaking again. "I see you, every week. Smiling. Always kind. Always polite. But every time I leave I feel like I left something behind. Like there's more to you than what you show. And I don't know why, but I want to know that part." His voice cracked slightly at the edges, like he was pushing past the fear of being rejected. My hands gripped the sides of the chair. My mouth was dry. I forced a breath and said, "What exactly are you asking me, Noah?" He turned to face me fully now. The rain outside seemed to pause. The air between us thickened. "I know you're married. I'm not here to disrespect that. But if this is the last time I see you, if I walk out that door and never come back, I want to know what it feels like to hold you. Just once." Silence. No follow-up. No begging. No touch. Just the truth laid bare on my kitchen floor. I should have said no. The word was there. It hovered at the edge of my lips. But instead, I stood up. I walked away from him, past the dining table, through the hallway and up the stairs. I didn't tell him to follow me. I didn't tell him anything at all. I stood in the doorway of my bedroom, heart racing, every second pulsing like a siren in my ears. I thought of Jake. I thought of the life we built. I thought of all the nights I cried in this room alone. All the times I wished he would come home early, surprise me, touch me like he used to. I turned around. Noah was still downstairs. He hadn't moved. I stared at the empty hallway, waiting for guilt to crash over me like a wave. Didn't. Instead, I whispered just loud enough to be heard. "Noah!" The sound of the chair sliding back made my stomach twist. A step. Hesitant. When he reached the top of the stairs, he looked at me with a question in his eyes, asking for permission one last time without using words. I didn't speak. I simply stepped aside. And he understood. There were no promises. No declarations. Just two lonely people crossing an invisible line they both knew they couldn't uncross. He touched me like I was something fragile, not because I might break, but because he knew I already had. And in his touch, I found something I hadn't felt in years. Presence. It wasn't about passion. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about sex. It was about finally being seen. For a moment, the rain outside vanished. So did Jake. So did guilt. There was only Noah. And me. And the silence between our heartbeats. And when it was over, neither of us said a word. He pulled on his shirt slowly. I sat on the edge of the bed, wrapped in a sheet, not ashamed, just numb. He kissed my forehead like he was saying goodbye to someone he never truly had. Then he walked down the stairs, opened the door and left. No "see you soon." No promises of tomorrow. Just the sound of the storm returning the moment the door clicked shut. The house was quiet again. Noah didn't come back the next day. Or the one after that. The familiar knock I had grown used to never returned. I told myself it was better that way. Clean. Uncomplicated. But I still listened for it every time the wind brushed against the front door. I didn't cry. Not because I wasn't hurting. But because I didn't know which part of me to mourn. The woman who gave in. Or the woman who had to. Jake returned 3 days later. He walked in with a bouquet of white roses and a weary smile, kissed me on the cheek like he was punching a time card, and asked what we should order for dinner. He didn't notice the tension in my shoulders. He didn't ask if I missed him. He didn't say he missed me. I stared at the flowers. They looked exactly like the ones his assistant sent on my birthday. I made pasta that night. We ate in silence, the clinking of forks filling the space between us. I tried to look at him, to really see him, but it felt like I was watching a man I used to know live in a body that no longer recognized me. Later that evening, he unpacked his suitcase in the bedroom. He told me he had a surprise. He had booked us a weekend away in the mountains. Something quiet, he said. Peaceful. Romantic. His eyes lit up for a second, as if trying to reignite something. Maybe he sensed the distance. Maybe it was guilt. Or maybe it was just timing. I smiled like I always do. That night he reached for me in bed. Let him. My body responded out of muscle memory more than desire. He touched me like someone following old blueprints, never questioning if the house had changed. I closed my eyes and felt the weight of Noah's absence more than Jake's presence. The next morning I stood at the window with a cup of coffee, watching the same delivery van pull up. But it wasn't Noah. It was someone else. He stepped out, young, polite, unfamiliar. He handed me the package with a practiced smile and turned to leave. I didn't ask what happened to Noah. I didn't want to know. Because I knew, deep down, that what we shared was never built to last. It wasn't love. It wasn't even a real affair. It was a moment. A raw, honest, selfish moment that gave me something Jake hadn't in years. Presence. Warmth. Awareness. And that was the hardest part. Knowing that I had found something meaningful in something so brief. Knowing that it didn't fix anything. Knowing I still had to live in the same house, wear the same ring, cook the same dinners, and lie next to the same man who believed everything was fine. I tried to forget Noah. I really did. But sometimes in the middle of the night, I'd hear the rain tapping against the window and feel the memory of his touch like it had never left. People say cheating is black and white. That it makes you a bad person. That if you loved someone you'd never stray. But they never talk about the gray, the silence between two people that grows so wide, you forget how to reach across it. They never talk about the way a simple glance can feel like a rescue, or how being wanted can feel like air when you've been holding your breath for years. I didn't tell Jake. Not because I wanted to protect him, but because I didn't know how to explain the truth without tearing both of us apart. What do you say? I needed to feel human just once, and I let someone see me before I disappeared completely. Some truths don't belong in the open, not because they're shameful, but because they're fragile, and once spoken, they lose the meaning they carried in silence. So I carry it, quietly. The memory of a man who asked for nothing more than to hold me, just once, and gave me back a part of myself I thought was gone. The storm ended days ago, but in some ways I'm still standing in it. And sometimes, I don't want the rain to stop.